Hello, and welcome to Religious Roundtable, a program sponsored by the Southern Berkshire Clergy Association and broadcast by WSBS Radio, 860 AM and 94.1 FM on your dial. The program is also streaming live on the internet at www.wsbs.com. I'm Vivian Orlowski, and I'll be moderating our discussion this morning. I serve as Quaker representative to the Southern Berkshire Clergy Association and worship at South Berkshire Friends Meeting, Sundays at 10:30 a.m. The meeting house is located at 280 State Road in Great Barrington, and we welcome visitors. Today on Religious Roundtable, we will be discussing Gideon's Garden. This is a mission of St. James Episcopal Church in Great Barrington. As our guests, we have several people, and I'd like to ask you to introduce yourselves.
I'm Francie Hills. I'm the rector of St. James, and we meet at Chrissy Farm on Route 7 North in Great Barrington. Our Sunday service is at 10 a.m. We have a Thursday service at 12:05 in the boardroom of Wheeler and Taylor. But today, July 18th, we're actually meeting on the grounds of our property at Main and Taconic for an outdoor worship service and followed by a brown bag picnic. So all are welcome to join us today at 10 o'clock.
Wonderful.
And I'm Paul Tazinski. I'm one of the owners of Taft Farms, which is located at the corners of Route 183 and Division Street in Great Barrington. We are a 200-acre pesticide-free farm, and we are the grounds where Gideon's Garden is located.
I'm Penny Curry, and I'm a parishioner of St. James and a business consultant to Taft Farms.
Wonderful. Well, we're talking about Gideon's Garden. Would somebody tell us a little bit more about what it is? And I guess you did mention where it's located in terms of Taft Farm, but maybe a little bit more specifics.
Well, Gideon's Garden is a youth community garden that was really started out of a dream of the youth of St. James. In the winter of 2008, we had a wreath-making party at the farm where all of the children came to make wreaths to distribute to people who didn't have an opportunity to buy one themselves. And at that wreath-making party, the young people were having a pizza party afterwards, and they were discussing things that they would really like to do to have as their own project. So I overheard a little bit of this conversation and asked if I could join them. And out of that discussion really came the idea that they would like to do a garden. And they'd like to do a garden because they would like to be able to distribute food to people in the area that really need a little help and support of adding to their groceries and their dinners. And so after that discussion, I thought about it and prayed about it and talked with members of the church. And then I approached the Tazinski family to see if they could help us with some land. And Paul can tell you about why they decided to help us out with that.
One of the big things is the community of really all of the Berkshires, but especially Great Barrington, has really helped our farm quite a bit. It's about 12 years ago, a parcel of land that we had been farming for about 30 acres was coming up for sale to be developed. And the town literally raised the money to buy it for us, because we couldn't afford it on our own. And a few years later, we lost our barn in a major fire. And once again, the town and the people of the town rallied behind us and raised money to help us build a new barn, replace equipment that we lost in the fire. So we really wanted to give back. And the best way we could think of was to give to the people who can't give anything, that don't have anything to give but would like to. So we had been throwing the idea for a community garden around actually for about a year, and this was the best idea that we could come up with, and it's really our way of giving back through St. James Church and through Penny and Francie.
How many years has it been going now? It's fairly recent.
This is now the second year, and we've increased the size a little bit. Last year was about 1/3 of an acre. This year it's about 1/2 an acre, and this is hopefully going to be a yearly garden from this point forward.
That seems very promising. How did it get its name?
Gideon's Garden is named for Gideon Bostwick, who was the first full-time rector of St. James Church. He served our parish from 1770 till 1793. He was a real missionary kind of priest, and he really was the founder of the Episcopal Church in the western part of Massachusetts. And he did things like travel on horseback to 47 different towns in Connecticut, Vermont, New York, and Massachusetts. And he would minister to people on horseback, in addition to working for St. James as their full-time rector. So we thought that Gideon's Garden would be a nice tribute to our first rector, but also that missionary spirit that he had might really be reflective of something of what we're trying to accomplish in the garden.
Oh, very inspiring example, indeed. Paul, you talk about why your family got involved. How do you continue to be involved with the farm, and what are some of your insights into how the garden itself? I mean, you're a pro in agriculture. How is it developing, and also are you in touch with the young people there?
Oh, absolutely, and actually, several of the young people that work in the garden, they come into the store, they ask questions. They're really involved with wanting to learn why something needs to be done, not just going out and doing it. And it's special for us to watch, a child, and in some cases a teenager, that is taking an active interest in the farming, not just the garden. And it means a lot to them, and it means a lot to us to watch. But, one of the ways that we continue to be involved, we have an agronomist that works for us who's someone who's familiar with plant science and plant nutrition. And at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, we go through and we monitor the health of the plants, take care of the plants, give them any fertilizers that they need to be productive. And it's just a way to make sure that on days when there may not be one of the youth working in the garden, that there's somebody making sure that nothing is going to go to waste out there. If something needs to be picked, we've in some cases sent one of our employees out there saying, look, this needs to happen because the church is going to need this on Thursday when they make the deliveries. We can't wait for someone. This has to happen now. And we've taken a real active role in making sure that the garden is successful.
And if I can jump in, Vivian, and just say, it's just the most amazing act of generosity that Paul and his parents, Martha and Dan Tazinski, have first of all given us the property.
Now, they're not members of your congregation.
No, they're not. They're not. So
really,
this is a real sort of church and community cooperative thing that we're doing here, which I think is real exciting. But the generosity of this family and all the staff at Taft Farm is just, I can't tell you. I mean, we would not be able to do this without them. But the fact, as Paul was describing, that they continue to be involved and more involved, and really, I think they've gotten captured by the mission that's going on here of getting kids involved in the land and in the community.
Absolutely. You don't have to be an Episcopalian to appreciate all of this.
Certainly
it's
not.
Certainly non-denominational.
When you're surrounded by excited people, it's hard not to get excited.
So where are these young people coming from who are involved in the project, and how old are they?
Well, actually, we have as young as 6 months. It's been helping us show up on the day when we were planting this year in June. But the age goes really from 3 years old up to 17 in that category. We have a wonderful young man this year, Brendan Farnham, who is a student at Mount Everett. And we have asked him to be the garden coordinator. And just to see how far he has come.
And he's only 17, or is he older? Oh, my.
He's 16, almost 17.
Oh, great.
And since he has started working in the garden, not only has he learned a lot about planting, but he has also learned how to work with the youth. He's wonderful with young people. And, there are all kinds of things, Vivian, that's growing in that garden. It's not just the plants and the seeds. It's the young people developing, working together, and some families side by side that normally would never come in contact with one another. So once word is out about Gideon's Garden, particularly with young people, we've found that other young people come. We've had some students from Simon's Rock come by and ask if they could help and work in the garden. We have had meetings with the Railroad Youth Organization and ask how they might be part of the garden. And they're interested in sending over some young people that would like to sketch and do some drawings of the garden. We also have had young people, I would say, from the members of the farm, their children, the mothers that bring the children to work with them, they're all members of Gideon's Garden. And they can go out and they can tell you what that plant is and what's growing and if it's in trouble. They're learning so much by being in the garden, but they're making friends that they would normally never make. We have families that come by the garden and they stop at the farm and ask if they can go in and harvest just enough food for their dinner that night or the next night. And we take them over to the garden because how you harvest a plant is very important. If you harvest the wrong way, that plant won't reproduce again. So we explain all of that. But then you watch those families, the mothers working side by side with their children. And it is very humbling because they want to help take care of that garden. They don't just harvest the food and leave. They ask if they can do a little bit of weeding. But then you see them start walking up and down the rows. And some of the people that have talked to us, that's come to the garden, they use the garden for prayer time, for meditating. They use the garden to sing. Last year, I went out to the garden, and there was a group of 2 Hispanic families that came. And they were singing while they were in the garden. And it was just the most beautiful thing you've ever seen or heard while they were in the garden. And it was just the most beautiful thing